4 a.m., 3/27/2020, Eagle Trading checking in. Wow. So I was not looking at the Dow Jones Industrial chart that we had drawn a few weeks back, talking about the line that we needed to hold. The Dow seems to be a little weaker. It's probably a little bit more susceptible given that there's 30 stocks in that index, and we are not even getting close to the line that we saw SPY barely get over yesterday. We talked about before we think we're in the clear on SPY on the long-term trend line, we needed to see it hold above that for a few days because one day does not make a trend, just like it did in the little short-term bear trap that we saw. It certainly doesn't make it in the longer term either. So the market's all about energy now. You stretch the rubber band so far, it's going to snap back. But as the energy starts to find an equilibrium, the fundamentals are going to play out, and that's where we might see another leg down in the market. So I kind of think the market is trying to absorb this information, but it's assuming, and bear with me here because here's the chart, but I want to talk. It's assuming that the virus is going to run almost like this type of chart to the virus, where it's going to have a peak and then it's going to start to pull back down. And the market is trying to do that in an inverse relationship where it's trying to quantify and determine the timeline of the revival of the economic indicators and employment and all these different things and extrapolate that out and mirror that in the market. The problem is, if the virus doesn't make this type of an N pattern, the market's not going to make a U pattern or a V for that matter. So if this pattern starts to accelerate to the upside, then all this work we've done here is going to reverse and probably accelerate to the downside. The thing is, I do not think that UVXY or the volatility indexes are a good way to play this pullback that we're seeing here. I still think that we're right at that equilibrium between people that are feeling they missed this rally in here and those that think that we're going to keep going lower. So that is two different energies colliding, if you could understand what I'm saying. So you might have 1 or 2 days of, FOMO right here where you're going to have stocks like MFA and some of these really crazy leveraged real estate instruments that are so popular with day traders right now and that are so beaten down that they're probably going to find a footing. So if you're looking for rebound stocks, I think that's actually where you're going to see it. You're going to see it in stocks like, look, MFA is up 32%. I still have a little bit left on that. Where can that pull back to? I'm not going to pull up charts here. I'm looking on my phone at different charts too, and I have a tablet as well. So, if you can get that, maybe it's tough to say today. It's definitely going to try to hold that $2 and change area. You might get a pullback into the $1.70s or $1.80s, and then that might turn around and reverse the other way. Michael, Frank, Alfred. I still think the energy in that has enough FOMO to where people think, wow, this is so far down, it's going to come back. The cruise lines might get a reversal. I'm not saying we're going to get a red to green, but that's where a lot of the energy has been. And stuff like Norwegian's down 7% today. You could get a rebound in that. That's a chart you want to watch throughout the day. It's got support right around 14. So those are things to keep an eye on. So let's get back to the Dow Jones real quick here. My Fibonacci line was a little off. We thought we were going to get a little bit lower. But think about it. If we move that line up, that tags the the high from yesterday. So now we might have to run a fib on the retracement of itself here. So here's the long-term chart. Still nowhere near that ascending long-term channel. So definitely we're cautious, just like we talked about yesterday. Gold, if we start getting into liquidation mode here, gold I think is also going to have some suppression here because it's going to have to find its equilibrium too. People are going to be selling whatever they can in these downdrafts. Every time we get these big downdrafts and these redemptions, gold isn't immune from that. But eventually I think the energy starts to play the other way where gold finds its footing. We talked about gold probably running out a little bit of energy anyway, technically, on the gold chart. So you're probably seeing that, and then there's going to be time to buy back into gold. As far as SPY, support today is probably right around 250 and change on SPY. Let's see what time it is now. We're almost at 9 o'clock. I'll try to pull up some individual stocks in the news right now, but I just want to kind of get that out there on a PSA. If I've heard some things on the news. Do not take ibuprofen or I believe it was Advil. If you were to come down, God forbid, with this corona, they're saying that's kind of exacerbates the symptoms and makes the virus actually spread rapidly. So not good news on that front. So just avoid those two things, guys. And I'll be back in a little bit. So we're kind of playing through the Fibonacci's here. We're not in the clear by any means in the Dow. It's the weaker of the two. SPY seems a little bit stronger for now. But we have these two different energies colliding, and let's see which way this goes. But 250 is your support area on SPY. Below that is not good. Closer to the 238 area. Resistance on the upside for a rebound is probably going to be somewhere an inside day. I'd have to look at the 5-day chart to kind of figure that out. So I'm just kind of getting started here. So bear with me and keep those other numbers in mind and those other things we talked about. But I think your rebounds are going to be seen in your MFAs. I'm looking at PERI. It's an interesting looking chart. PERI. And another rebound leveraged real estate trust issue, I believe. What is the one I was looking at? I'll try to pull it back up on the next video, but MFA around 175 to $2 looks kind of interesting for a snapback, and obviously the cruise ship industry stuff.